The river roared with restless currents, swirling around rocks and fallen branches, carrying the sound of water over the forest in a low, continuous murmur. Amid that ceaseless rhythm, a faint, desperate splash caught the attention of a lone man walking along the bank. At first he thought it was debris tumbling downstream, perhaps a fallen log caught in the flow. Then he saw it, a young lion, golden mane plastered to its small frame, struggling to keep its head above water. Its eyes, wide and panicked, darted frantically from side to side. A low, guttural groan of distress escaped its throat, almost pleading, and the man's heart tightened at the sound. Without hesitation, he stepped into the shallow edge of the river. The cold water bit at his legs, tugging at him with every step, but the lion's desperate movements pulled him forward with more urgency than fear. Inch by inch, he advanced, careful of the slick stones beneath him. The lion flailed, thrashing against the current, and for a moment he worried it might drag them both under. But he kept his voice low, soft, a quiet rhythm that seemed almost to weave into the sound of the river itself. "It's okay. I'm here," he whispered, and the words seemed to reach past instinctive fear. The river tried to claim the lion again, pushing it under, but the man reached its side, wrapping an arm gently around its torso, supporting its weight against the pull of water. He felt its trembling, the wild heat of life struggling against exhaustion, and he murmured encouragements, careful not to frighten it further. The lion's claws scraped against his arms, instinct and panic at war. Yet there was no aggression, only survival. Step by step, he guided the animal toward the riverbank. The current tugged, the water foamed and churned around them, but the man remained steady, focusing on each careful movement, matching his pace to the lion's strength. Around them, the forest seemed to pause. The birds fell silent, the wind held in quiet watchfulness. Finally, the lion scrambled onto the bank, water dripping from its fur, chest heaving in ragged relief. It lay flat against the mud for a moment, soaked and exhausted, and then slowly rose, shaking its mane like a wave crashing into the forest. The man stayed back, letting the animal find its footing, speaking only in soft tones. "You're safe now," he said, his words, almost a lullaby, carried on the damp morning air. The lion blinked, large amber eyes fixed on the human who had dared to intervene, assessing him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. It took a tentative step closer, then retreated, muscles taut but calm. Around them, the river flowed endlessly, indifferent to the struggle it had witnessed. Yet the man felt a shift, a subtle acknowledgement from the creature. A spark of trust had begun to form, fragile, unspoken, yet undeniable. The forest seemed to breathe again as the lion crouched on the muddy bank, ears flicking at distant sounds, eyes never leaving the man. The first moment had passed, the rescue completed, but something deeper had begun. A quiet bond that neither words nor force could define. It was a beginning, delicate and slow, born from shared survival and quiet courage. The morning light spilled through the canopy, thin and golden, settling over the riverbank where the lion now rested. Its fur, still damp from the rescue, clung to its body, outlining every muscle and sinew. The small wound along its shoulder wept faintly, and the man noticed each flinch as it adjusted its weight on the muddy earth. The lion's ears twitched constantly, flicking toward every rustle, every distant bird call. It was cautious, fragile, aware of every movement around it, yet somehow less frantic than the day before. The man stayed low on the bank, leaving water and a small portion of meat at a respectful distance. He did not reach for the lion, did not call it or demand attention. Instead, he spoke softly, letting his words blend into the wind through the trees. "You're safe. You can eat when you're ready." The lion's head lifted slightly, nostrils flaring as it sniffed the air. Its amber eyes flicked toward the food, then toward the man, measuring him with the instinctive intelligence that was both weary and aware. Hours passed in quiet observation. The lion approached the food slowly, body low to the ground, each paw placed with precision. It paused frequently, turning its gaze toward the man. And though it did not move closer, there was a subtle acknowledgement in the way its ears relaxed, in the slight lowering of its shoulders. It ate in measured bites, eyes never fully leaving the human presence, as if testing the rhythm of his patience and respect. The forest seemed to hold its breath during these hours. A gentle breeze moved through the leaves, carrying the scent of damp earth and river water. Somewhere above, a bird called out, its song cutting through the quiet tension. The lion paused mid-chew, ears flicking, then returned to the food, a silent decision made in the language of trust. Each small action built a bridge, each cautious step forward strengthening it. As the afternoon deepened, the lion ventured closer to the man's shadow, testing the boundaries without crossing them. It lay down a few paces away, back legs stretched, front paws extended, its head resting lightly on the earth. A soft rumble vibrated from its chest, not quite a purr, not quite a growl, something in between that spoke of cautious contentment. The man remained still, watching, feeling the weight of this small, delicate connection. Night approached, and the temperature dipped, mist rolling off the river in thin, swirling tendrils. The lion stayed in place, eyes half closed, body still tense, but calmer than it had been in days. The man collected some firewood a short distance away, careful not to make sudden movements. He looked back and saw the lion's ears flick at his shadow, and a quiet understanding passed between them. Presence without pressure, patience without demand. In that silence, fragile trust had taken root. The man could feel it in the gentle breathing, the measured steps, the cautious eyes that now held a spark of curiosity. The lion had not surrendered control, and the man had not forced it. Yet a bond existed, subtle and enduring, ready to grow. As the stars emerged above the canopy, the river flowing endlessly behind them, both human and lion rested, connected by something larger than themselves, something quiet, profound, and real. The lion's shoulder wound, now a shallow gash with faint traces of dried mud, drew the man closer the following morning. He approached slowly, hands open, voice low, speaking in the soft rhythm that had begun to ease the animal's tension. "Let me help you." The lion shifted its weight, muscles taut, eyes wary but curious. Each step the man took was deliberate, careful not to startle, acknowledging the silent authority of the wild creature. He cleaned the wound gently, using water drawn from the river and a cloth to dab away the dirt and grit. The lion tensed, flinched slightly, but did not retreat. Its amber eyes followed his movements, watching with a mix of suspicion and growing trust. When the cloth brushed too close to a tender spot, a low hiss warned the man, who paused, waited, and adjusted his hands with patience. No words could speed this process. Only quiet respect and gentle precision would suffice. In the days that followed, a routine formed. The man left food and water, allowing the lion to approach on its own terms. Sometimes it sat at the edge of the clearing, watching him from a distance, studying his movements like a careful observer, weighing intentions. Other times, it edged closer, testing the boundaries of tolerance, letting the man touch its shoulder briefly while he applied healing ointment. Each touch was measured, a silent agreement forming between them. The forest around them seemed to acknowledge the delicate alliance. Leaves rustled softly in the breeze, birds called overhead, and the river murmured with endless constancy. Each sound underscored the quiet intimacy of the moment. Human and wild animal existing together without dominance, without fear, connected only by the thread of shared survival and patience. There were small gestures of gratitude. The lion's tail flicked slowly when it felt safe, a low, content rumble vibrating in its chest. Its head would tilt toward the man, leaning into a touch with careful trust. These moments were fleeting but profound, signaling an understanding that transcended species. The man watched, marveling at the subtlety of communication, at the quiet power of presence over words. Nightfall brought cooler air, mist rising from the river in thin curling tendrils. The lion settled nearby, ears relaxed, paws stretched, chest rising and falling steadily. The man lit a small fire at a respectful distance, warmth drifting toward the clearing. They shared the space without speaking, without intrusion, just a silent companionship that carried an emotional weight neither would forget. By the end of the week, the lion moved with greater confidence. Its gait was fluid, muscles no longer stiff with pain, and it approached the man without hesitation, resting its head briefly against his side as if acknowledging the care given. The bond, fragile at first, had strengthened into quiet, mutual understanding. In the soft glow of sunset, the man realized that healing was not just for the lion. It had healed something within him as well. Here on the edge of river and forest, trust had taken root, small and tender, but undeniable. The days of tension, fear, and struggle had passed, leaving a connection that was patient, gentle, and true. Each moment, each quiet exchange carried the weight of survival, compassion, and the beginnings of something rare, the bridge between human and wild heart. Weeks passed, and the lion's strength returned fully. Its fur, once matted and heavy with water, now gleamed in the sunlight as it prowled along the riverbank, muscles rippling with renewed vigor. The man approached cautiously that morning, carrying food, as he had for days. Yet the dynamic had shifted. The lion no longer flinched or watched from a distance. Instead, it rose from the edge of the clearing and stepped deliberately toward him. Its movement was fluid, confident, yet measured, each step careful but unafraid. The man froze, letting the moment unfold. There was no fear in the animal's eyes now, only recognition, a quiet understanding. He lowered the food and whispered softly, "It's all right. You're safe." The words floated in the warm morning air, mingling with the soft rustle of leaves and the distant rush of the river. The lion approached closer, still, lowering its head until it brushed gently against the man's side. A soft rumble began deep within its chest, vibrating through the quiet clearing, a sound neither growl nor purr, but something between acknowledgement and gratitude. The man's own chest rose and fell with the rhythm of the lion's, an unspoken harmony forming in the space between them. For the first time, the wild creature had initiated contact on its terms, offering trust rather than accepting it passively. Nearby, the pride observed from a distance, a silent audience to the rare display. They did not interfere, did not encroach, but their presence was felt. The young lion paused, eyes flicking toward its family, then back to the man, as if confirming that this connection had the forest's tacit approval. A bird called from a high branch, the note clear and melodic, echoing the quiet wonder of the moment. Time seemed to stretch, each second laden with significance. The lion tilted its head, pressing closer, then stepped back, giving the man space. The gesture was fleeting yet extraordinary, a moment that could not be manufactured, only lived. It was trust expressed in muscle and breath, in soft rumbles and measured movements, a bridge between human and wild heart. The man knelt, allowing the lion's presence to guide the interaction. His voice remained low, almost a whisper, "Thank you for trusting me." The words were unnecessary, yet they held weight, a recognition of the bond forged through patience, care, and silent understanding. Then, as if sensing the day's task was complete, the lion turned toward the forest edge, moving with the fluid grace of a creature that belonged entirely to the wild. Its back was strong, movements confident, eyes alert yet calm. The pride followed, circling briefly in acknowledgement before disappearing into the dappled shadows of the trees. The man remained on the riverbank, watching the lion's retreat. The forest resumed its gentle sounds, the wind through the leaves, the distant gurgle of water, the soft calls of birds. But the memory of the gesture lingered, heavier and more vivid than any noise around him. He knew he had witnessed something rare, something quietly profound, a moment where courage, patience, and compassion met, leaving an imprint that neither human nor lion would forget. In that gentle clearing, amidst the flow of river and rustle of trees, a bond had transformed. Fragile trust had become recognition. Quiet care had become connection, and a simple act, a brush of fur against human skin, had carried the weight of understanding between two worlds. The morning mist had lifted, revealing the forest bathed in soft golden light. The river wound lazily through the trees, shimmering like molten silver, its current gentle yet persistent. The lion, fully recovered now, moved along the riverbank with the grace of a creature completely at home in its world. Muscles rippled under its sleek coat, and every step was measured, confident yet fluid. The man watched quietly from the edge of the clearing, a mixture of pride and quiet sorrow filling his chest. He knew this day would come, the moment when the lion, stronger and free, would return fully to the wild. Nearby, the pride observed, a silent audience to this delicate farewell. They lingered in the shadows of the trees, watching the young lion with alert eyes, not intervening, but clearly aware of the significance. The lion paused, glancing once back toward the man. Its amber eyes met his for a brief, luminous moment. There was no fear in that gaze, only recognition, trust, and the subtle gratitude that had grown over the weeks. The man's lips moved almost inaudibly. "Go, my friend." No reply came, only the soft, low rumble of the lion's chest, vibrating like a gentle acknowledgement. The lion turned gracefully, padding toward the forest edge. Its movements were fluid, full of the ease that comes from strength and restored confidence. The pride followed, circling once, as if acknowledging the connection before slipping silently into the dense shadows. A bird called from a high branch, and the soft whisper of leaves rustling in the wind filled the clearing. The river continued its endless journey, indifferent yet present, carrying reflections of sunlight, sky, and memory across its surface. The man remained on the bank, feeling the quiet warmth of their shared moments linger in the air. He could still see the way the lion's tail flicked with calm rhythm, the subtle tilt of its head, the steady rise and fall of its chest. These small gestures were indelible now, etched into memory. He breathed in the earthy scent of wet soil, river, and foliage, aware that though the lion had left his side, it had not left his mind or heart. He began to walk slowly away, leaving the clearing empty, yet full of the essence of what had passed. Each step carried the weight of quiet reflection, of patience, compassion, and the extraordinary bond that had bridged two worlds. The sun climbed higher, light spilling over the river, glinting on stones, and casting long shadows through the trees. Somewhere distant, birds called, carrying their song across the forest. Though the lion had returned to the wild, the man carried it with him, its trust, its subtle gestures, the fleeting moment of recognition. They were treasures of memory, impermanent in presence, yet eternal in significance. He paused one last time, looking back at the river, imagining the lion weaving through the forest, free and unburdened, and felt a quiet satisfaction settle in his chest. There was no dramatic farewell, no loud declaration, only the river flowing, the forest breathing, and a lion disappearing into the wild. Yet within that simple, unspoken moment lay profound meaning. Trust had been given, care had been received, and a bond had been forged in silence and patience. The man turned finally, carrying that quiet, unshakable connection with him. A reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary moments are those of subtle grace, tender understanding, and the courage to act with compassion.